the next thing I'd like to show you is the copy and paste functions here. So as you'll notice, there's this nice little copy button. So if I come over here and I take, say, some crystal armor and I make some strange shape out of it, so for instance, something like this. Now, I can actually copy that whole item, that whole object, as one object and save it. And the way to do this is to click this copy here, and it's going to let you select the area that you want to copy. So, you have to set the dimensions just right. And this can be a little bit irritating, trying to figure out the best way to grab these blocks. Sometimes you even have to maneuver yourself around and get to a different angle on them. So it can be quite frustrating to find how you want to actually select these. I think it would be great if they had a opposite select mode or a way to do it in a totally different way. But if all else fails and you can't find a way to do that, you can always add one more block to it and then use that block just kind of as a place marker, and then copy the entire structure from that. Now, once you have something copied, you can click paste and paste the entire thing anywhere that you would like to, and you can do this as many times as you'd like. Not that we really need all that. But you can see how that would be useful. Now, something even more useful is you can actually save this template and give it a name. So, you could call this crystal. Stair arc. Okay, so now I have that template. And you can also load templates that you've saved. Now these are only specifically on your machine. I don't think that they have a way to upload them to servers yet, but it is a feature that I hope that they'll add in the future. So, as you can see, I've got a few templates in here. Not a great deal of them. Some things I've been working on trying to get some better, more efficient power systems. But you can see you can load templates that you've saved at any given time, which makes this an extremely useful feature for the builder. On to XY symmetry plane, just so that you can see what this guy does. It's extremely useful for building, because if you're building a ship that you want to be symmetrical, you want one side to be exactly the same as the other, so this can literally do exactly that. anything you do on one side of the plane will happen on the other side. Now, there are two settings that you should be aware of for the planes. This odd symmetry mode here, which is ticked, will put it on the middle of that block. So if I put it this way, and then I actually place things in the middle, it doesn't place anything or mirror or do anything because that is the center of the plane. But if I am to place a block here, for instance, it's going to mirror it in the exact location on the other side of the plane. And it works exactly like a mirror, even for removing. So when you remove these, you also will be removing them from both sides of the plane. To show you what the other planes do, I'm going to unset this plane and set this plane. So as you can see, the different planes really are just different dimension directions. So you have, X, Y, X, Z, and Y, Z's, which are the three main directions for the game. So you can use all of these at the same time if you want, and actually create a zone, basically, where whatever you do on this corner is going to be duplicated and mirrored perfectly on all of the other 8 sides. So you have one up here, one down here, one over here, one up here, one over here, one down here, and so on and so forth. But it's very, very useful if you want to make symmetric ships that look nice and you don't want to mess things up. But you also want to be careful using it, because if you forget that you have a plane that you don't want up, then all of a sudden you might not notice, but you're mirroring what you want on the top side on the bottom side, and sometimes you don't want that for building certain structures. So I'm going to go ahead and unset all of these. Okay guys, just so that you know, there's also this mirror cubes down here for symmetry build planes, and basically this mirror cube button, all that it does is when you place a block on one side, so say I placed a block here, it would, if I had a plane here in the middle, it would place another block here, but they would actually mirror each other. So say you have a weapon, a cannon, basically, that you put over here facing in that direction, it would then mirror it over here facing in that direction. So they perfectly mirror each other if you have that ticked. Next thing that we're going to move on to here is the build helper. So this funny little button way down here at the bottom that says build helper. Basically, if you click this, it's going to allow you to select a couple of different shapes. I do hope that they're going to start adding some more shapes to this, because it's something that people have been talking about lately on the forums, and I'll probably include a link in the description to that discussion, so if you want to add something to it, you're welcome to if you have a Stardock account. So I'm going to show you basically what these different shapes are in kind of a basic way. Now this button up here you also need to kind of take note of. This will allow you to choose whether or not you're allowed to build inside the area that is being created by this helper. If you restrict the building to the helper area, then it is only going to allow you to build whatever you've selected here. So for instance, if I take that and I select an ellipsoid here, I can then pick what size I want the ellipsoid to be. Say I want it to be 20 here, 8 here, and 8 here. Now, it will allow me to select where I would like to put that. And if you're building a ship, you might want to use this to literally make a thruster. So you could put it, at the back and build a thruster out of this shape and put it there and build a thruster out of it. But what the restrict means is once you place it, then if you try and place down any blocks out here, it's not going to let you place any blocks anywhere except for inside this build helper. Now this is very useful. It will also let you remove blocks inside the build helper, so if you already have something there, do keep that in mind. But you can basically then up the sizes to the maximum. If you're using symmetry planes, you can do all 3 symmetry planes right into the middle. And doing so will basically allow you to come over here and just build one corner of this if you wanted to make a full hole. So for instance, if I take this whole big thing and place it down right here, boom, I just built almost the whole hole. Actually, I might have built the whole hole. But anyway, you see why that can be extremely useful for building. Because basically, it'll just repeat everything. And that's what you want on a lot of structures. You don't want to have to be adding in these blocks manually. Much prefer to have it do it for you. And then you can see if there are any spots that you missed. You can then pop right over and boom, do it again. Voila. And eventually you'll fill it all the way in. Now, that is extremely, extremely useful. Something else you should know here is this basically changes that tick box that we had in the build helper from restricted to not restricted. So, not restricted, now I can remove blocks anywhere. And with restricted, I can only move them there. Now, I have just undone everything that I did there, which is pretty much what I exactly wanted to do. And I wanted to show you one of the other shapes. So, the torus. Kind of an interesting shape this one is, really. And you can change this around by changing the dimensions to whatever kind of shape you're really looking for. It doesn't matter too much. But this is kind of a donut shape. And it does usually kind of fold in at the center, so you will notice that there are some blocks there folding in and one set that goes all the way through. And that's the way that this thing works. It is a very nice round donut-y shape. And of course, the circle. And this is probably one of the ones that I find absolute most useful. It's pretty basic, but what it does is outstanding. So, for instance, voila, got a circle. Now, when you're changing the rotation of the circle, you're actually changing the bend of it. So, note if I just do it radius and leave the other 0, So let's see. Wow. You will often hate this slider and really wish that they gave you a better tool for that. It's also something being discussed on the forums to be changed. But anyway, now you see you get a perfect circle if you don't select any rotational values. And I tend to find this very useful for building thrusters or ships that you want to have a perfectly circular hull. You can do this and then use the symmetry build planes and use the copy and paste functions here to copy a large chunk of this and then paste it again and again and again until you get to the size that you actually want. So this can be extremely useful. And the very last thing that I want to get to in this particular video is I'd like to get to show you the remove and replace filter. So this is very useful if you've got one type of block in your ship that you want to change to a different type. So for instance, say you have a whole bunch of power reactors that you want to change to power capacitors. So let's make this example legitimate. So, say you've got this cube right here, and you want to change all of these power reactors into power capacitors. You could go remove, replace, remove and replace with active slots, select the power capacitors, and then select the power reactor modules. And this will allow you to do a replace function in a big mass like this all at once, but it's not going to affect blocks anywhere else. So, for instance, if I'm trying to do this anywhere else, it's not going to let me. It's not going to let me replace any other block type except the power reactor modules. So say you have a combination cube and it's power reactor and shield battery and some other useful blocks that you've placed in it, but you only want to replace the power modules, power reactor module, then you could basically select the whole block just like this and boom, change them all, because it's actually replacing only that type of block, which can be very useful in certain situations. You can also use this to just remove blocks. I haven't really found that that's all that useful unless you just want to remove one specific type of block. But I found the replace extremely useful. Well guys, that concludes my first video in the tutorial series. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned a lot from it, and I hope you can join me for my next video, which is going to be on power reactor modules and power capacitors, and I'm going to show you how to make the most efficient power systems that I can think of. And I'd love to hear your feedback on that and on this video, so if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe.